flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. Coin flip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby? Showtime, baby. We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We the best, nothing less.
You don't like this? Trust me, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down that throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull?
Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest.
Game time! Game time!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 32 of the CoinFlip NFL Week 14. By this point, you are either dead out of the playoffs in your season long and GCFFL and the grind and kind of checked out maybe, or you're out of that and you want to get fired up for some DFS as a last chance type deal, or you're in the middle of both. Myself, I did very well in the season long this year. I had Dalvin Cook, was the good and bad at this point. We'll see how he does this week, but I rode him and I had CMC in one of my leagues along with several other key pieces, but Cook's probably one of the biggest as far as around all the three main teams that I have in my big season long money leagues that had two first place regular season and buys, and then one that literally last weekend came down to a first or all the way down to dead last wild card, and I lost because Cook got hurt at halftime. So kind of ironic there, but either way, hopefully everybody's still engaged in some NFL. I think it's probably the best time of the year for football all the way around when you look at college and the professional league. But before we dive into Week 14, which will be the biggest slate of the year, I believe, with me as always, toe tagging Tambo on Twitter. Tambo, how you doing? How was your trip to Seattle?
It was good, man. I'm doing well. I get back into the swing of things. I feel like I've been away for forever for some reason, whether it was the King of the Beach and I got back. We did that, the Thanksgiving pod. I hope everyone made out okay with that. I had a pretty good Thanksgiving there. We could talk about that, but the main slate wasn't the greatest for me. Looking to bounce back, kind of like what you said. I mean, it's for me. I had a bye last week in the GCFFL and the Platinum, so I'm playing this week, ready for that. I got to get dialed into that one. I only play 2 season-long leagues with my friends, like one with my brother and one with my best friend and other guys that I know. So those I'm sitting in first in both, so I'm trying to wrap those up and get that stuff running waiver wires and shit. And I'm used to DFS so much that it's kind of tough to be on top of it, but there's some money there. And then this week's the last week for the FFWC. So if I want to get back down to Miami and if I want to play for that $2 million prize, I got to get in. And on Thanksgiving, I got I had a really good sweat on Thanksgiving. As I said, we talk about it, but the 153 max was rolling. I know everybody needed Kamara and Thomas, and that didn't pan out, but I had Kamara, Thomas, and Jaden Graham for Atlanta, and he went off for me. So that leapfrogged me. Well, not went off, but I think he had like 14, 15 right out of the gate kind of deal. And with him scooping ahead, I leapfrogged all the other Thomas Kamaras. So I had all three of them going, sitting like top 30. And then, they did nothing. The consolation prize, though, was I got a ticket into the 5165 Mega Q this weekend, where it's 100 people and the top 8 go to Miami. So I got to come top 8. It's a tall task, but definitely looking forward to it. It's the last week for that. So, swing hard for the fences and see what happens. But I'm excited, like you said, this time of year, and we got a big slate ahead of us.
Yeah, I had a great Thanksgiving for sure. Not only family-wise and all that. My family came down, so it was nice to have them in town. But, the fantasy slate went well. I was all over Trubisky. I played him 100%. Mixed and match. I didn't have much Miller, and so that kind of hurt me as far as getting some of the big money. But overall, did well, made profit. Sunday was okay. It wasn't terrible. Lost a little bit, but I was okay with how I built. There's a few pieces that, hindsight obviously is 2020, which is typical this time of the year. And then oddly enough, I had 6 lineups in the 333 main in college football. Started out really well. I, like many people, had, Wake Forest quarterback. He got hurt out. That kind of threw things off. And then basically I made enough in it that I was profitable on the day, but on the, with the cues and all that, I think I finished up a few $100s. But my biggest sweat will come this Saturday as the, whatever they call it, college football world championships on DK. No live event, which, kind of sucks, but at least they have it. Kind of like golf, but we're praying for a live event this year in 2020. But it's Saturday. It's I think it's 50K up top. There's only 50 guys in it, so I think I told you it was like 79% of the field has a single bullet, so pretty spread out. Strong slate, hard slate, only 8 games. I know nobody's here necessarily for college football, but it's definitely been my biggest, success this year, coupled with NBA, which, hell, that's saved me many times. But here in the last week alone, I hit, 8K Monday and Tuesday night, or Sunday and Monday night on the showdown slates in the NBA. So definitely made up for a lot of my NFL losses on the year. And that, I mean, I talked to many guys in the Slack, because they've all asked about, what's that do for me as far as bankroll, stuff like that. And I tell them, hey, that's why you bankroll manage. So when you do hit like that, you're not like catching up. You're just like, all right, I hit, and that kind of keeps you bankrolling and managing. It's not like I went out last night and played, $2,000 worth of NBA lineups. I'm not well versed in NBA to do that, so I just keep my normal strategy, but gives you a little bit of breathing room and lets you keep fighting. But when those hot streaks hit, you got to be, enjoy them and move on, and no matter what sport it is. But NBA has been great for us. As we wind down football season, if that's something you want to get into, we're covering it wall to wall daily. I think the guys take off only Sunday, really, and it's only because right now there's not really a solid slate. It's kind of wishy-washy, but Monday through Saturday, for the most part, people are in there. And even if they're kind of away, the Slack is on fire enough that you can kind of piece together some things. And there's enough people in there with injury updates and all that. It's definitely a great spot to have. NFL wise, looking forward to this week. I think as we get into it, I have a question for you to kind of get your answer before we deep dive. As always, Super Draft is our sponsor for the entire year. Got 4 weeks left now. They've been great partners of ours. We're in talks with them now about continuing on a partnership through 2020. As we've said, and they continue to do, they're trying different strategies. They're trying to attract guys. This week, their big pot, they reduced from $20 an entry to $10 an entry, which is great, because with the code GUP, as we've preached all year, you put $10 in, you get $10 free. Well, now they get you 2 entries if you're new to the site. So you go do that. They have a 50K guaranteed pot Sunday, only a little over 5,000 entries. So, I mean, as far as, it's probably, it's been rake free the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, I know that Mayo and some of those guys have some rake free, which we always recommend getting in, because anytime you get them rake free, I don't think enough people understand. Maybe they understand it, they just don't comprehend it. And it's one of the things on my list to get in as we get into the fall swing. I mean, the winter series, as I'm calling it, that Tambo are going to do some pods on, is to talk about. I think people hear rake free, but I don't think they understand what the art, or like how that affects our art, what that means to their from financial standpoint. Because most people just, when they win, they win. They don't understand the whole, especially even heads up type stuff. And I know Tambo, you have insight on that, and we all do if you common sense it and pencil and paper it out. But I think the common guy, the average guy, the 90% out there don't really think it all through or comprehend it. It's kind of like the guys that pay, minimum payments on their credit card every single month, not realizing they're paying like $300 of interest and like $20 of, whatever they bought. It's just that same mentality of people not comprehending where their money's going in cash flow and all that. And that's some of the stuff that I want to bring to the table to people to make sure they understand it, not to tell them how to use their money or do whatever. It's still up to them, but at least be able to say, well, we've explained it to you. Hopefully it helps you understand better bankroll managing, contest selection, minus EV, plus EV. We say that a lot. I've had a lot of people DM me and be like, I don't understand what EV means. And so those are things that I am writing down. I know we've been not not behind the eight ball, but there's so much going on right now at this time for us heading into 2020. But I do have a laundry list of things that I'll pencil and paper out, get with Tambo. We'll put some scripts together, do 2 or 3 educational pods for the members only, because it's a lot of work and we're going to do it. And we will do a couple of the free pods for sure, but some deep dive stuff will be guys that are, loyal to us and behind the paywall. So it's a great time to be a member. As always, rate and review us on iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch. If you're not familiar with the Honda Classic giveaway we're doing, go check out gupscorner.com/challenge. We are sponsors of the DFS Open, which is going to be a great event. Mayo, Wiley, Feinberg, Baroff's obviously co-heading it up with Joe from Torpix, at Torpix, I think is his Twitter handle. So, go check that out, get all the details on it. We are giving away an all expense trip paid by us, flight, lodging, hotel, whatever you want. We'll figure that out once we figure out the winner. Tickets to the Honda Classic every day, club passes, DFS Open entry. So you get to play with us in that. Another round of golf, fully covered, up to 6 days, depending on your schedule, whoever wins it. So there's 6 ways to win it, whether you're a new member or a current member. And if you do all 6 entries, you get a bonus 7th. We will draw the winner out Super Bowl Sunday and announce it the Monday pod after that. So go check all that out. Last week's Listener League, the big one we did on Thanksgiving Day, I actually got 10th in it, which I was happy. I think it may be the first time I've cashed this year in the Listener League. Our boy Ryan, king of the cash, he got 3rd. He does a great job breaking out the cash articles. I'm not a big NASCAR guy, but I've had several people compliment him and Scott and the work they've done. They're kind of tag teaming up that. I hope to have a big 2020 for those guys as well. Stay tuned on some more information there. But if you're a NASCAR guy, it's another, one thing about us, everything's all inclusive. So NBA, NASCAR, NBA, NFL, college football, MLB starts out in 2020. D-Rock will be leading that for us. So tons going on at Gups Corner. Great time to join. Pepper Monster won it with a pretty, I wouldn't say chalky lineup, but had the right pieces, took the right chances, and they hit. Trubisky, Zeke, Kamara, Allen Robinson, Miller, which was kind of the one I didn't have. Beasley, Cook, Ridley, and the Bears D. The Bears D wasn't the top scoring D, but that was definitely the most owned, so it didn't hurt him. Pretty solid lineup, probably pretty common among guys that did well that day. Like I said, I was 10th, and my main difference was I didn't have Miller, and I went Gallup instead. And so a couple different pieces, so he did a great job there. The Listener League is up. It'll be on the pod feed, or it's on Twitter at Gups Corner if you want to go check it out. Tambo, for this week, before we head into Thursday Night Football, because of just some of the notes I've taken throughout the last couple of days as I've been working many, many hours in my office. This is a pretty busy week for me. Got a long next couple weeks, and then I kind of get a little break for a while, which I'm vastly looking forward to. But last week you had some weather concerns. Some people freaking out, some people not. I know you weren't in the Slack much because as you were traveling or already there, but in general, this time of the year, you get a lot of weather concerns. You get a lot of motivational narratives, whether it's good or bad. So, motivation, I'm out of the playoffs. I'm not in the playoffs. Am I getting fired? Am I not? You get coaching changes. Ron Rivera for the Panthers this week. How and when in the week do you try to account for that, or do you not at all, or do you take each piece by piece and then try to dissect it as you get towards Sunday?
Yeah, to chop it up, first do weather, because I think that one just gets blown way out of proportion. I guess pun intended, because the wind and whatnot, but I just don't get it. Like, you can't even look at that till Sunday morning. There's just no way, because it's much like in golf. You kind of have to look the night before if you're going to try and do this tea time stuff. You got to figure it out when it's closest to that you can get that news. And the weather, I was in Slack a little on Sunday morning saying, guys, like the field in New York, to me, it's baffling, but it looks fine. I know it turned out to be worse than it was, but I guess my big thing was it still wasn't projecting for anything that these guys haven't seen. Like, it was Aaron Rodgers playing in snow. He literally plays for the Packers, where they play in snowstorms all the time with Adams with him. So, like, it had no worry to me for that sense. And it's not going to be like, now everyone would say, oh, you're results oriented. I was saying this before the game happened. And I said, I'm staying on him and I'm staying on Shepard. Shepard for sure is just short passes in the slot now with no Ingram. It makes sense to me. He's going to be in the slot. I think he's fine. I still think they'll be down. I think it can make sense for that. And I said, it's taken a little bit of a risk on Adams, but it's not like it's something he hasn't seen before. He catches quite a few passes, much like a Michael Thomas or a Landry or someone like that, where he's just coming back to get it. And it's not like he's a deep bomb threat that you're going to see him catch an 80-yard touchdown or something. That was your, Lazard play early in the game. I think he had an 80-yard catch or whatever. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. If the winds are like 20 miles an hour sustained or higher, then there's something to be involved with it that you can say, okay, maybe this is a little something to be worried about. But other than that, you don't really have much that you can tell, right? There's not a lot you can do from there, and you kind of just got to trust your gut and go with your plays. As far as the motivation factor goes, I think I know you and myself, we do a lot of this, but, staying on top of notifications on Twitter or staying on top of coach speak or things you're hearing throughout the week from other people or content you're taking in, you really want to, sift through that and see what you believe to be real, because some of it's legit and some of it isn't. And sometimes you'll miss a piece and you'll look back and someone will say, oh, why did everyone go with that? And you'll look back and see, and I use the example, I was at Monday Night Football. It was an incredible game, and Penny was very involved. And even though Carson had the first touchdown for them after Cook got the original first touchdown of the game, Penny still got involved. And if you look back earlier in that week, Pete Carroll was asked about it, and he said, listen, I'm going to use Penny. There's no reason why not to. He just had a great Sunday for us. He's running the rock. Why wouldn't we have him in our game plan? And yet you saw he was way under-owned on the slate on Monday. You saw people wonder where that came from. You got to stay on top of the news. I mean, football is a huge news sport. Whoever can stay on top of it and then decipher it the best is typically who comes out on top. And I think that's just a prime example where this time of year with playoffs, things like that, I still too, and from your football background, you could tell me, but I think more people don't realize that people are still playing. That nobody just says, oh, we suck, so I'm going to suck now too. They still have contracts to play for. They have families to play for. They have livelihoods. They can get cut. You know what I mean? Things that can happen. They're going to play their best game. It's just not always going to work out. I mean, you tell me, what's your thoughts on that side of it, coming from a background?
I mean, I can only speak from experience, and then as you move up in level, so go from high school trying to get recruited by college trying to beat out other great players every single week. High school was kind of a I don't want to say once you made it, but at least for me, I mean, once I became a starter, I never looked back, but I was a dominant player in high school. Then you get to college and you're like, well, shit, everybody's dominant. Like, I mean, it's every practice you're competing for a job in some cases, not even like once you're named starter in August, you're good. Like that shit don't work because you got guys trying to get scholarships that walk on and totally different atmosphere. And I can only imagine NFL definitely didn't make it to that level, but to your point, my perception would be, it would just be, to simplify it, is if they're on the field, that means there's tape and they're playing, because they know that the tape don't lie and the tape's always there. So whether it's for a scouter, they know every scout is going to be looking at that tape. If they're coming up on free agency, if they get cut, or if they need a practice squad guy or whatever, if you anticipate those guys being on the field for many reasons other than, let alone injuries tend to happen when you don't go your normal, speed and all that. But if there's, in today's world, if there's tape being taken of the game, which if you're on the NFL and you're on the field, then they're playing. Like they're going to play. Now, does that mean the only time I take it into consideration is, okay, do I see the situation of team A getting up 40-10? And then team B may not, but they may not be on the field no more, right? They just the starters may be, all right, I'm done. Like, let the backups go. And that's just a different story. But if they're competitive, which in the NFL, you don't get that a whole lot. I mean, most teams are competitive. So I am a little worrisome, which we'll get into here in just a second, of the in-season, out of nowhere type coaching changes. So the Ron Rivera stuff, how does that change that dynamic of a team that 2 weeks ago was still in the hunt for a playoff, now seems to be completely dead? Their coach is gone. Now they're going on the road, even though it's to a team that I really have been down on for pretty much most of the season. They have the highest priced player in fantasy football that probably has got a lot of people to the season-long playoffs, and I'm sure everybody's wondering, how does that team react or show up? And most times it goes one way or the other. They literally don't give a shit by if they get down, or they're like, all right, I just got to make sure I look good for the next coach. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm still under contract, and I need to make sure I'm ready to go for that. So it can go one or two ways. We'll get into that in a little bit on the main slate, but yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said about the weather. More times than not, and I said the same stuff Sunday, it's blown out of proportion. Wind is important in the passing game, but it's more, everybody will hype up the highest wind dot they can find on any website. And it'll say like 28, but that's like the gust peak, but the normal is like 14 to 16. And everybody will talk about the 28-mile-an-hour winds, and it's like you go look and you're like, well, it's only really 14 to 16. It may gust up every once in a while, but oh, by the way, they're playing in XX Stadium, and it sits east to west, and that wind really won't hit that stadium very much, and it may be just like freaking dead air. Right? I mean, so there are a lot of things you have to dig into when you're looking at that and kind of know. So I don't pay a lot to weather until you get to even if Bobby's talked about it last week. This is where weather backfired on us. Not backfired, we changed, but we both love Taylor at Wisconsin in the snow because we know how the footing is and how that becomes. But if it was going to be rain, which it started turning to, which was a fine line between that 32-degree Fahrenheit type deal, it wasn't as big of a like because of the potential, snow you love, you cut, you move, the running back knows rain's just sloppy for everybody type of deal. But
yeah.
So and it applies to NFL as well. So that, I didn't change at all either from Rodgers, and I was all over Rodgers. Anybody that asked me, I think several people asked me my favorite combo, and I said, all equal, I'm taking Rodgers and Adams today. I said that many times Sunday morning. So yeah, and I 100% agree with you. So I think it doesn't mean ignore it. You definitely want to take it in and look at it. But if you're just like talking about it Thursday, like you're wasting your time. Like just wait till Sunday morning, we'll figure it out. Make all your plans and your plan A, plan B, and then move on from there once you figure out the information. Tomorrow night, I hope to be home to see it in time. It is a very, very long week for me. I'm literally going to get off here, go to sleep for about 4 or 5 hours, get back to the office. But my lowly, terrible, don't know what to think Dallas Cowboys overall. The Clapper didn't get fired. I don't know why. Versus the not very much better Bears at Chicago. No weather in sight, though. Cowboys -3, over under 43. A little bit of wind, not much at all for Chicago this time of the year. It actually looks like it'll be a gorgeous night. Cowboys, luck box out with the Eagles, pissing one away to the Dolphins on Sunday. So they still control their own destiny at 6-6, which sounds ridiculous. I think someone even said the Redskins mathematically can still make the playoffs and win the division, which is asinine at this point in the season. That's how bad the Eagles and Cowboys have blown some games. But all in, the Cowboys on paper, health-wise, in my opinion, are still the best, most talented team in the NFC East, which doesn't say much at this point. But they're going to the Bears. Trubisky coming off a fairly decent game. Back-to-back Thursday games for both these teams. Tambo, 120 seconds or less. What are your quick comments on this game?
Yeah, I was certainly waiting for, your analysis because I know it's, you're a boys fan. So that was, good to have on the pod here for this one. I think it looks like a fun showdown slate. And sometimes, I'll hate on it and say that it's one of those ones that, it's going to be tough to figure out. It's not to say it's going to be an easy one to go out and win, but I'm saying at least we know some of these target trees on these sides, the injuries set up kind of equal. So if you look at Chicago side, they had a little bit with the tight end situation, but it's been announced now. So the Brockener is going to be out, which frees up Jesper Horsted, who had a touchdown on Thanksgiving. I don't know if he'll go off or anything, but he's still sitting down in the flex at 2,000. So that doesn't look too bad. Gabriel's already ruled out. So definitely still going to like Anthony Miller. I think he filled in, did his job again after, everyone said they were kind of thinking that was going to be bad chalk. He turned out to do his job for 3,900, barely got a price bump. I'll go back to him for sure. I still like Cohen to get some targets. I know that he burned some people on Thanksgiving when more were, less ended up being on Montgomery in the end. And Montgomery actually had a decent day or an okay day in that spot. It would have been nicer to have Singletary there, but, Montgomery still came through. He's cheap. I would honestly make sure you only play one of them. I don't think both of them get there. I think you got to take a stand and choose a side. But Dallas is looking good. Pollard is questionable. I don't think it seems too serious. I'm not worried about it. But other than that, you got everyone. You got Dak, Zeke, Amari, Gallup. It's a pretty tight tree. The one I'm not chasing is the Witten Thanksgiving game. I didn't even want that to happen then, but it always seems to, and it is what it is. So you got to roll with that game happening. But I really like what Dak and Zeke have been doing. Elliott, by far my favorite here. I think 10 targets last game. to go with 12 solid carries, and he averaged something like 5.9 per carry. Looked better for sure, I thought, from the eye test. And we just saw Scarborough go for 83, and I know Zeke's a better talent by far than Scarborough. So I expect Zeke to do more than that, and I like him the best, I would say, of all the options in the game. What's your take on the slate itself for the overall guys besides the fan side or the handicapping side?
Yeah, I mean, God, it feels like, regurgitating the same information. The Cowboys should win this game. They got to win this game if they want to get in the playoffs. Can't afford to go 6-7, and they have the much tougher schedule than the Eagles by far. I think the Eagles have that 3 of their 4 games is Giants and Redskins. I think it's the Redskins twice, Giants once, and someone else. But definitely a must win for Dallas. If that defense needs to show up and shut Trubisky down, we know he's not great in certain situations. So that's kind of the personal fan type side. I mean, Chicago's, as long as that O-line's healthy, which it looks like it is, I think they'll be able to run the ball. I agree with you there. I think the perception could be Chicago's D is great, which, it's a good D. But I think Zeke, even Captain Zeke being, I assume he'll be the highest. His pricing is probably out. I haven't looked at that yet, but it could be I don't think it'll be the common play as a captain spot for a showdown slate, just being as much as he'll be if people trying to cram in. So, it may not be a bad thing to try to get him in there and see what you can fit around him. Overall, it's a do or die game for Dallas, and typically Dak seems to step up in these kind of spots, play well, get a win. Get back, they'll probably go 9-7, maybe 10-6. I doubt they go 4-0, but 9-7. Hope to hold the tiebreakers if that comes into play, win the division. But the only thing I like about Dallas, which sounds stupid at this point, is if they get in the dance and they can mentally reset the season and go, all right, we're in. They still have one of the most talented teams in the league, probably top 10 for sure, pure talent on paper, and can compete if they get the right situation, right? So you're going to have teams like the 49ers, Seahawks, or, some of those teams are going to be lower seeds, right? Like 5 seed, 6 seed type stuff. So it's going to be interesting how that shakes out. But I like the Cowboys, but I wouldn't be afraid to play. Like I wouldn't be afraid to put Captain Dallas defense in there. They can certainly get a touchdown off of Trubisky, free up some cap, stack where you can, and take some chances. So I kind of agree with everything you said. And I think Dallas wins and covers. I'm not touching it. I'm just going to hope to sit down and pour a nice stiff drink and watch the game and enjoy it and wait for Sunday. I'll be grinding on college football prep as I've been doing every night before I go to bed. But anything else on that before we just jump into the main slate? Overall, concerns?
No, I think you said most of it. The only thing I would say is, I got no dog in the fight. I'm not the Dallas homer. That'll come up next when we get to quarterback, and I got to talk about Lamar. But listen, I'm with you. I actually think Dallas wins this game outright. I think they cover. I think they Dak is the guy that's going to come through because he just saw Lamar do it against San Francisco. He saw Russell Wilson do it against Minnesota, and he's capable of doing it himself. So, I know he's going to want to have a good game as well. Between him and Zeke, I think they can take care of it by themselves. And then you got Amari Cooper and Gallup on the outside. I think it'll be just fine.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, this is the first 13-game main slate of the year because week 1 you had 2 Monday night games.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, I think there was 12 maybe week 1 because I think you had a Thursday night, Sunday night, and 2 Monday nights. So I think it's the first 26 quarterback, so on and so forth of the year. So I'll be interested to kind of see. It didn't really, I don't want to say change anything, but it does in the sense that it, pricing spreads out. There's even more players. The value, we probably both had to tweak a little bit there because the pricing just forces you to, there's not much under certain price levels at like quarterback and stuff like that. But I'm interested in your whole take overall on the slate. Currently, I will be men playing the slate strictly because I'm putting so much time and effort into Saturday. Not only that, Friday night, there's a pretty good showdown slate for college football. I will say, regardless of how well I've done in college football, that I would be hard-pressed to put our coverage, our team, our Slack, and that includes our members, against anybody in the country on college football DFS. I would put us up against anybody. I mean, between Bobby, his research, my research, which I do, but I let him lead it all. I just kind of chime in where I can. But then our Slack, those guys, we talked about this before, but it's even unique in college because you got everybody's regionalized. I don't know how to say that. I'm terrible with words, but you got your Big Ten people, your Pac-10 people, your SEC guys that live there, and so like they're listening to the local radio and they know their local sideline reporters and stuff like that. That's much more important in college football than even NFL, because NFL's covered coast to coast no matter where you are, right? You're going to have people. So, and you got, when you have that kind of community, it gets so intriguing to go, oh yeah, I listened to blah, blah, blah today. And the number 2 running back got most of the snaps this week. It looks like there's things like that. And in such a niche sport like college football, it pays dividends to know that. And our Slack's done great. And then obviously the research, everything Bobby provides is second to none. His articles are great. This isn't the last weekend because there'll be bowl season as well, and I know we'll probably do our bowl pick'em and all that. But DraftKings for sure covers the bowl season. They have different kind of little slates and mini slates that we'll keep covered. I will say that Ryan, our cash guru on NFL, is due. His baby is due, I think Friday or Saturday. They're either having it or it's getting. They may have a planned delivery, and then Bobby's is next week. So a couple of the guys are going to kind of step away for a little bit. We'll fill in for them, no problem at all, but we wish them the best. Those guys have been, tremendous ads for us. Both have done a great job this year, and wish them and their wife and their families the best this upcoming week and a half as they prepare to bring on a child into the earth. And that'll be, it's great for them. And I've talked to both of them. They're excited for it. They were very, I don't want to say worried about leaving their responsibilities. That's how committed they are, but they care about the community. And I told them, hey, family first is always our motto. And so that, I told them take care of that. We'll take care of the rest. So wish them the best. As we get into the main slate, as always, the playbook: quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, defense. We go light on quarterback, tight end, and defense. Double up on running back and wide receiver. Tambo, as we get into quarterback, will not restrict you on your value this week due to the pricing. So what is your play, fade, and value? No price restriction on value for you.
Jeez, and I didn't even know that before I got on. So the good news is I had my cheat code already ready. So now I'm good. I'm set. Listen, first thing out of the gate, the play is simple. It's no homer. It's Lamar. I don't care what anybody tells you. This is just getting ridiculous. They're not pricing him up. You and I have had this conversation the last 2 weeks in a row. Why aren't they bumping his price? Why does college have these prices on quarterbacks and NFL doesn't? I don't know. Lamar Jackson last week did it again. His floor, it's funny, I think is both games, San Francisco and New England, he had 26.3 and 28.6. I mean, those were his floor games. The other 5 games of the last 7 are all over 30 points, or 5 of his last 8 or whatever, and his worst is 26.3, which was this weekend. He still ran all over them, got the bonus. The guy did barely anything. The funniest thing I saw on Twitter was someone showed off was Jared Goff beat him by like 1 fantasy point, and Jared Goff had 424 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. So you're getting a hybrid. You can't get this at very many positions. I related it with a friend this past weekend and I don't know his situation right now. I know he got stabbed, he got arrested and everything with the Terrell Pryor situation. I know he's not really in the league or anything right now, but he used to be, I remember when he was playing like quarterback, running back, and wide receiver at one point, and he was super cheap on the site. You kind of just had to plug him in because the options of that value that were there. You just can't get that from a lot of guys. So that's what you're getting with Lamar. We just watched Dak. Everyone's on this Buffalo's insane D thing. I get it. And I had that pick last week in the Slack and on the pod with you. I love that play with Buffalo. I thought they were going to come out in prime time, show off. Maybe they got a little bit lucky, but they did their job. I'm just saying as far as covering. And I think Dak had 27.7 and he had like 4 rushes for 25 himself. And he's not even the same as Lamar. It's not his goal to run for 100 yards in a game. He does it all, right? And Lamar has his set tones. I think Lamar's just too good at 7,400. Long-winded rant, but I'll round out the rest quite easily. Based on going to Lamar at that price tag, my fade is just naturally going to be Mahomes. Mahomes has been struggling anyway, right? He hasn't really looked good the last couple times out. I think he's incredible. I don't care about the regression, the touchdowns, all that. I know how good he is. I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying he has not been the same DK scoring-wise since the leg injury, and I can't pay $7K for him when Lamar is 7,400. I'm just going to be overweight there and take him and make a decision on everything else. And then my value was going to be Carr, but now because he's the only real guy down there at 5K that I could see a situation for, but I actually like the guy on the other side at 5,800 is Tannehill, right? I actually think he's in a fine spot. I think a lot of people want to keep chasing Derrick Henry as his price goes up, and I'll be happy to go with the passing game. Corey Davis is cheap. Jonnu Smith is cheap. These aren't super weapons. I'm just saying these are guys that are cheap enough in a stack that you can put that together and then start fitting some of these other guys when we'll get to it later on in the wide receiver prices, they all seem to go up. Like, use Adams right at the gate, went up $1,000. Guys like that all got the Devontae Parker up $1,200. We'll get to that. But that's my plays, that's my value, and that's my my fade. Gup, what do you got?
Yeah, I figured you'd go Jackson.
Have to.
Yeah, I like Cousins at home. Definitely, there's going to be a lot of this for me tonight. I don't know how much it would be from you. Is injury pending type news. I love him more if Thielen's in. So if Thielen can make it back, I'm all in on Minnesota at home against Detroit. I'll stack them. I'll be all over them. I don't. Monday night won't really. Well, I said Thielen and Cook. Obviously,
I was going to say Cook's the other decision there too with injury wise, because that's a big one. That's a good rushing match as well.
Yeah, Madison's decent enough that if they want to throw all over Detroit, they can. And to be honest, if I would rather them have, this is from DFS wise, not personally, because I need Cook, but I'd rather them have Madison and Thielen than Cook and no Thielen as far as DFS wise, because Madison can serve well enough against Detroit that if Thielen's there, it may even help that Madison is in to make them throw a little bit more, whatever, if you're believing in the whole Cousins type deal. If he's not, and the other two, I'll just go kind of like a 2A, 2B real quick would be, I like Jacoby Brissett this week. Not priced too crazy. They're playing Tampa. We know Tampa's, not great against the pass. And that goes comma pause, but I need TY to be in. So it's kind of like that all night. No injury concerns at all. Player that I play, I like Donald. I think maybe most guys may be off of him. He was on the road at the Bengals. That was the biggest, clear going to lose setup of the week. Dalton coming back. Everybody. I mean, everybody was on the Bengals. It was one of the highest played picks in the. I don't know about the Super 7, but one of the Super 7 or Super contests for sure. But they're back home. Weather pending. I like Donald. You can stack him up this week. Jamison Crowder's in play for me, so I like Donald. My fade is Baker. I had a feeling you were going to go Lamar and fade Patrick, and I just didn't want to repeat it. I don't like much of Kansas City this week at New England.
Right.
New England didn't look great. The odds of them looking shitty 2 weeks in a row, coming back home under Bill Belichick, where Belichick will just tell Belichick may play nine DBs and say, run on me. He's going to take away their best threat and then say, run the ball off me. If you beat me, run the ball, then you beat me. That's just who he is. He's going to, whether it's Kelsey or Hill or who knows what he'll do, but I don't see them playing shitty 2 weeks in a row. I love the Texans last week. So, Baker's the other one though. They're at home against Cincinnati. I'm kind of, going against myself there saying, kind of like the same thing but I just wonder where that team's at. This was kind of up to my question when I started with you was that turmoil in that locker room is God knows what. Like they're pretty much done losing to Pittsburgh. The coach is all but out. You still got the suspensions. You got the drama. Like they're like one or two sparks away from a fucking, wildfire forest. So I don't know where that's at. I just don't want to for $6,300. And I'm a Baker guy, obviously OU, but and since he looks great on paper to go play again, so I think he could be kind of popular at 6,300. And I'd rather go elsewhere. So he's kind of my fade this week. My value is Hodges. I don't hate him. I like the spot a lot. Although I may be on the Cardinals betting wise, but I think this could be a fun game. I think it could be an underrated DraftKings game on Sunday where you could get like a 31-28 type game out of nowhere. Like, Pittsburgh's D is good, but they're going to be on the road. I don't expect the Cardinals to play bad back-to-back weeks. Most people will. Most people will be down on them. Most people are going all over Pittsburgh. So from a betting angle, the Cardinals are on my that's on my player pool, if you will. And so they're there for me to look at when it comes to the Super Contest or Super 7. But I like him, and I don't remember his exact price, but I know
That's my issue. I'm not going to say I hate your play, but at 5,900, I love your Darnold call. Darnold's $100 more. Like, that's my only issue with Hodges. I love the matchup. I think the pace can get there, to your point. Like, it can turn into something, but I just, with the weapons that he has, quote unquote weapons, if you want to even call them that, he's got his duck hunting buddy there with James Washington, and they said they're going out again this Tuesday. Maybe that's something special, but I don't know. I can see it. I just wish he was priced down. How is he almost $6,000? And that's, like I said, the issue with the slate. Everybody's priced up for whatever reason, like you said, at quarterback.
Well, I think that because there's 26 of them, but then I think DK priced up some spots. So Vance McDonald's priced up this week, which I can only imagine because of the quote unquote flow chart.
Yeah, it's correlated for sure. You're right.
Right. And so I think he's priced up. So that's really what got me on him. And I literally crammed right before we got on, but I was like, oh, like I was expecting like 5,200, 5,300. Yeah. And so when I saw 59, I was like, well, that may keep people off of him. And so that could be a great leverage play to say, well, I still like him. So now he could be like a low owned 5,900 guy and it's still in a good spot. So it's just something to think. It's, I like him for a value. We'll see how it turns out. I'll run through running back real quick because it's fairly easy for me. Whoever's healthy for the Colts, I'm playing. Like I'm going to be, if I can get a clear, I'm hoping it's Mac because he's sitting on my bench in my season long and has been. I love the Colts matchup against the Buccaneers up front as far as running the ball. I think if they can run the ball and establish it, they'll do well. If he doesn't play the whole Williams-Hines thing, they play the hot hand, it gets a little more sticky. I would probably actually lean to the opposite, not opposite, but I don't mind Ingram this week as well. I think Ingram could have a great day against Buffalo, kind of under the radar. So one of those two, Colts running back or Ingram, is kind of my 1A, and then my 1B, which is probably actually my 1A. Like I like Derrick Henry. He did get priced up, but I don't mind it. I've been on him now for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. He's definitely returned value. I actually like that he's 8,200 because I think it may take some people off of him. And I think with Tannehill, they're just playing so good that go to Oakland. I think Oakland will be competitive, but Henry's going to – they have such a huge matchup advantage on the running the ball against that D-line that I'm not going to be off Henry. I love him this week. My fade, I want to get your opinion on this. I actually played CMC last week, which I'm probably like the anti-CMC guy, so I probably brought all the bad luck. But
that's what happened.
Yeah, it was me. So my only concern there with him is I will only play him if I think by Sunday he's like completely under-owned. But I worry about the whole, not only the coaching change, but now they go on the road, divisional team that knows them. There's everything stacked up against not playing a Panther this week at all. Like just stay away from it. And then the 10-3 is a price tag. But if by Sunday, like everybody's on that same motive, then I may hop on them. But purely what I see right now, I don't want to play CMC at that price tag in that situation. My value, Bo, I'm going to go back to, I've been on him, ever since the week after he started. I even liked him the week that he started, as far as, his potential, obviously from Alabama, but Minnesota obviously showed they can get ran on. They get ran on for like 240 yards Monday night when you were in attendance. So you saw it live and in person. Nothing has changed. Bo, like you mentioned, ran up pretty well against some tough defenses. So $4,500, I don't mind going back there, especially if I get that situation I want, and that's my run it back. I don't mind bringing Bo, or I could stack that game pretty well. 2 or 3 from each side with Bo and Galladay, Bo and Jones. Hawkins, there's some options there. So I like Bo that cheap. Hines is obviously in play if he winds up being kind of the go-to in Indy by that point. But if not, I still like Darius Guice, Washington, playing at Green Bay. Green Bay still stackable. I don't see any weather concerns right now. We'll keep an eye on that. But at $4,900, he's explosive. Green Bay can be ran on. We know that. We've seen it this year. So I don't mind him. The price point is right. I still question the situation, potentially, but at $4,900, I don't mind him. There's not just a ton of value, so kind of digging there. What are your plays this week at running back?
Yeah, to answer your CMC, that's my number one play. And it's because a lot of the stuff. I think the thing is that what I've heard already so far in the industry, just in a couple days, is new coach. It's not, they don't even have a new coach. They have an interim head coach or someone who's already been there. Like they're just moving, they're shuffling things around. It's going to be very comfortable. I think they're still in it. They still know they need to get a win. I don't think it's going to be like I saw, let me say this. I saw a Greg Olson comment where he said, that Ron Rivera's a great man. One of the biggest reasons why he was so happy in his home and being there in Carolina was because of that. Is it a shift in mentality? Of course. I mean, you've had a major change in your life. It's like a divorce or a breakup or something happening that's very serious. But the bottom line is they still got to win games. They did not use CMC almost the entire second quarter last week. It turned out to be a big mistake. He still had a floor game of like 18 or 17 or whatever it is, which is not good at all for 10.5K. But like I said, they didn't even use them when they should have. Last time they played Atlanta, and even though they see them more times than once every year, he still had like 11 catches alone, ran for 70 yards. Atlanta is not that good. It doesn't have anything that they can stop him with. So that's going to be more of the issue for me. And at 10-3, I think if nobody wants to use them, it's whatever. The discount doesn't matter. It's the fact that if people aren't going to use them, I'm okay going back to him. I think that they'll use him the same amount. They may want to ride him even more if that's even possible. So I think his usage stays exactly the same. No real reason to rest him now and go from there. So I'm happy to go back to CMC. The other guy I like is the guy that basically gets CMC's usage for way less money, and that's Fournette. I know we haven't got the touchdowns from him. We got a couple 2 weeks ago, but that was just the way it goes. He hasn't had his touchdowns there this year, which is insane when you look at the statistics. But at home, in a decent matchup, his targets are what get me for that price. 11, 12, and 7 in the last 3 games. For PPR, that's what we want. So for DraftKings, at his price, with his usage, exactly what I'm looking for. I'll go back to him. Minshew, Foles, doesn't matter to me. He's getting his targets. And he's starting to do a little bit more. He's sort of not the same at all, but a Derrick Henry type where they say, like, they joke about Derrick Henry getting his snow tires. As it gets later in the year, Derrick Henry gets bigger. Defenses are wore down. You mentioned him. He can go at them. I like that about Fournette as well. I think that's what we get from him this week. I think we see that again. As far as my fade goes, I'm going to say Kamara right now. What I was going to say is I'm going to say underweight because I definitely see the merit, the game theory of it in large field GPPs, but I have a struggle with it. Even though his price has dropped, he's at 7,000. You got Latavius Murray there. The matchup with San Fran, I know that Lamar ran on them, but that's different. Again, when a quarterback running back hybrid is running on you, that's not the same as a running back. Running backs haven't had great success against them from a standalone position, right? There's no play option or anything like that. So that's one thing. And then other mouths to feed. I think the thing about the Saints, and that's always the issue with them, is you've got Thomas, you've got Ginn, Smith, Cook, all these guys that they got to use. So I'm not as high on him there. My values, one is going to be Freeman. I think Devontae Freeman, they know Atlanta showed last week. They know that Hill, Allison, that's not their guys. He got 5 targets and 17 attempts. Carolina, it's the other side, but we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the pod. Carolina's one, normally you don't want a running back versus running back in a matchup, but Carolina's been the one that has given it up all year long. While CMC is having great games, running backs on the other side are having great games. So I'm okay with Freeman. He's 5,300. I think that's a fair price. And then it was struggle, like you said, to find some more value. One that I brought up, and I'll bring them up just to get your thoughts quick, is because I don't love it, but 5,500, James White, New England, going to have to move the ball against Kansas City. They have a major issue with wide receivers right now. There's just no trust with Brady and those guys. I think that James White got 11 targets last week, if I recall correctly, in my notes here. And then 3 and 7 for 10 more the 2 weeks before that. So, I mean, it's just the guy they trust is James White. Whether teams are going to pick up on that or not, like it looked like Houston kind of did, he still got 11 targets and got in the box. So what's your take on James White this week at 5,500?
Yeah, I don't think I mind that at all. Probably intuitively, I always get worried about the Patriots because you just never know what their game plan is. And
right.
I don't want to make it seem like would it shock me if Sonny Michel has 3 touchdowns Sunday? No, it's not going to shock me because you just never know for sure. But lining everything out, it definitely seems like a playable, at that spot and price tag this week for sure. Mainly because if you go back and look historically, like Brady, when he likes someone and trusts someone, he doesn't go away from them, which is, Edelman's price up this week, and we'll talk about him in a second. Same type of deal where when push come to shove and they need to win, they need to get their shit straight and they want to get that number 1 seed back, he's going to go back to the guys he trusts, which has me down on guys like Harry and which I like him in general. And I think he's going to be great long-term in the league. Obviously, he's just now back off the IR, but guys like White and Edelman that he's played with for years and years are guys he's going to go to. So I certainly don't mind it. But Michelle's in that category too. I don't know. I didn't even look to see what Michelle's price tag is. There's probably a scenario you could say you could play both of them.
Yeah, you could do that. He's actually $100 more, but to your point, and I think you're right. You're onto something here. Is he's definitely, if White keeps getting loved like this situation here because of the targets and because of all that, I could definitely see an easy pivot in GPPs to move your shares over to Michelle, who still has like 10, 20, and 10 carries in his last 3 weeks. They're still using him. It's that time of year when Belichick likes to pound a guy, and this would be the time to do it. But then I wonder, like you say, could you play both because White's becoming a de facto wide receiver too, just because Sanu's been down and the other guys aren't trustworthy.
Correct. And I don't think it's out of question to say you could play both of them against the Chiefs D. You know, I mean, you're 11,100 for both of them or 10-3 for McCaffrey. So, I mean, depending on how you're constructing, they're in play. I like both of them. I think it's a good call. Lead us off on wide receiver as well. Where are you at on wide receiver this week?
Yeah, I definitely want to go back to Adams out of the gate. I said back to the well on him, just simple. I know his price went up, but to me, it's still cheap enough for elite usage. The guy is getting used. It's still much cheaper than Michael Thomas. I like the spot better. For me, I'm not sure, like I said, with the weather stuff, everyone just wanted to automatically go away from him last week, and he made him pay for it. But I think I'm going to stick with him against Washington. I just don't see anything there to stop me, and I don't mind his price. And it's a tough week at wide receiver. And if I'm going to pay up for a guy, I'd rather pay up for the guy that went from 7 to 8K that I think should be more and trust with a great quarterback in Rodgers than pay up for a guy like Devontae Adams or, who's the other guy I mentioned earlier, like James Washington. And I'll get to a value play afterwards that ties in with your Hodges call and that. But, those prices going up aren't the same to me with a quarterback I don't trust as much as a guy like Adams. So I'm fine with him. The second one is kind of like what you said earlier with injury stuff. I know you're fading Baker. I'm not all over him or anything. I just think that I got to wait and see what his injury says, and it's not going to be who everyone probably thinks in OBJ, but I'm still going to stick with my guy Landry. It's crazy, the usage he's been getting. I won't say it's completely, Michael Thomas usage, but 5 of the last 6 games, he's got double-digit targets, and in the one game he didn't crack 10 targets or more, he ended up with 7, and then he's got TDs now going as well. He's averaging a touchdown per game over the last 5, scoring in 4 or 5, so one was a double-digit game, and I think most will be on OBJ for $200 cheaper. And you can either pivot off OBJ and play Landry, like I'm saying, or you can play both of them with Baker, whether you're all in on that or not. Like I know you said you're fading. I mean, maybe in some stacks, if you got 20 max or more, I don't mind that stack at all. My fade is going to be Tyreek. Too much money for too much variance. I play the large field tournaments. I understand why you'd want to have him in there. I'm not saying to, maybe if you have 150, maybe have some because, he can break a slate. So I get that, but it's just not at the top of my priority list. Too much money, too much variance. Love him as a player. I know he's exciting on the field. I love watching the guy, but I think that this is the spot where, like you said, it's Kelsey or it's Hill for Belichick to shut down, but I think Belichick wants to go more after an X factor than he does a guy like Kelsey who hasn't even been doing much this season. It's not going to be the greatest spot. Tight ends don't have a lot of love against New England, and now you got a guy like Tyreek Hill who can really separate the game and really make him as a game changer, an X factor. I think he'd rather shut him down. So it ties in my Mahomes fade, but I like that. I'll let you talk about Crowder at value. I think you said you mentioned him already, but the big thing for me is just the targets. Even though he didn't do nothing with them last week, he still got 9. He gets along great with Darnold. He has all season. He gets the volume. 5,300 I think is definitely well too cheap. And then the one value I said I bring up, like I said, I'm not really high on Hodges because of that price. But if you were going to go there, like you said, to be different and get away from some of that Darnold, or if people want to go Fitzpatrick there or whatever they want to do on the opposite side of that game, you could go with Johnson. Yes, sir. You got it. So Juju looks like it's not official yet, but it's likely to be out. The Washington price bump is insanity. I don't care if they go duck hunting or not, playing on Nintendo or live or whatever they do. I ain't playing them at $6,000. I don't care what the matchup is or anything. That's just a lot of money for him, right? I'm really not loving that price. So I'm after just one good game. And it was like, I feel like I don't have it right in front of me, but I think it was with Washington. Wasn't it like 3 catches or something? Or 4 catches for 111 and 1. And one of them was like a bomb. So to me, I'm just not going to pay up for that at 6K. There's other guys around there that you can get to. I'm going to go for the extreme discount. He's 4.3K, 5 targets per game over the last 4, 5 last week exactly, and 6 the week before that. I mean, this is just, I'm giving an average, but he's had the good targets the last 2 weeks. And now Juju is likely to still be out. So if everyone's going to go to Vance McDonald at the price he's at 4.3, and we'll get to tight end, I think that's a nice pivot at the exact same price at a different position where it is tougher and people have gone up in price, there's lots of value at tight end, which we'll get to. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, play 1 and 2, and I'll go quick so we can get out of here tonight. I appreciate everybody that came late. Obviously, it was my fault getting us out late tonight, but we wanted to get out tonight so you guys had 2 commutes, Thursday and Friday morning, to listen to it all and let us digest and then ramp up Saturday. But a play for me will be Thielen, Cooks, either both, combination of that. Obviously, how it depends on if Thielen is starting. Thielen is my play without a doubt. If not, I still don't mind Cooks. My second play is Evans. I love Evans this week in his matchup, especially if you could mini stack that game depending on who's playing, who's out. But Doyle's still in play for me. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Colts Bucks, definitely a game. I actually like it because I think there could be some sour in a lot of people's mouths from the low scoring Jags Bucks right last week. So I definitely don't mind the Colts Bucks there. My fade's the same as yours, Tyreek. Same reasons, no reason to go into that. One value I had kind of just listed, just recently looks good. I think QB likes him a lot. Is Adam Humphries. Tennessee, he's only 3,800, so really off the board there. But he's got Joyner. Probably will be the one covering most of the time, and that's a great matchup for Adam Humphries. So not like all in on that, but for that price, keep an eye on him. Could be a good filler there if we don't have any really late breaking low strategy. I really like him this week at that price tag. And then I had Deontay Johnson also, pending Juju being out. I don't think he's going to play. He was my value. And I think, Hodges and Johnson, although not, all the glim and glitter as you may want, you could build a lot around that too. And if they just, bring their value, just a little bit above value with what you could stack around that combo, even if that's only 2 pieces, it's not the worst thing in the world, especially playing Arizona defense. And you could bring some Arizona pieces in there as well. But you could go Murray, Kyler, who I think could have a good game, bounce back game with Deontay Johnson and like Vance or something like that as well. So there's some options there, some mini stacks. I'll roll in a tight end. As I mentioned, I like Doyle because he was obviously grossly underpriced last week because of Ebron's news coming out after pricing. I think most people may gut reaction and go, oh, he's priced up this week, I'm off of him. But it really depends on the injury situation. Like if everybody's back and healthy, slight downgrade potentially, but he's still going to be the go-to guy at the tight end slot. And then if it's just him and TY, like Pascal still had a pretty good game, and then Doyle still hit value, times whatever X. So I'm not off Doyle, and if people are just going to brush him to the side, especially against Tampa Bay, I'll go back to Doyle all day. My fade was kind of a Hooper at 6,000, but then / Kelsey, just that whole New England deal. This is a game that I think Kansas City could struggle on some levels. And so whether you're fading Tyreek or him or one of the other, that was kind of that 1A, 1B for fade on tight end. And then value for me right now looks like Ian Thomas. I'm sure he'll be probably pretty chalk. There's several values there that you can go to, but he was the one that going against Atlanta. If you still think that they care Carolina, which I mean, they'll still go out there and play. And it looks like he's going to get the start this week. So I like Ian Thomas. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's like you said, another injury pending. Like Olsen's not officially out, so that's only if Olsen's out. That definitely he'll be the lock in at 2,500. It's like the Higbee situation. Too good of a spot, too good of a player. We already got to see him last year, so it's not like a guy on Thanksgiving where we were taking a shot on Jesper Horsted or random guys like that. This is a guy that we've seen already. So love that call for value. My value was Gesicki. I'm gonna go backwards here. I just think it's still disrespectful at that price tag, 4K. The guy's just been going off. He's got 7, 7, 6, 6, and 6 for targets. Last 5 games, TDs in each of the last 2. The Jets aren't good, against the tight end. So I think that's a great spot. If we expect the Darnold stack to go off, you can stack it the other way and have him as your run it back. So that'll be a little bit different. And again, 2.9K cheaper than Devontae Parker, who had himself a game for sure. Congrats to him. That was awesome. But you can get him for cheaper. So I love that. Won't repeat on the fade. It's the same. It goes with the theme. Kelsey. The only way I could see doing it is, again, if you got like 150 lineups where you want to make your lineup different just by the way you build. If you have, everyone's going to have a $4,600 Doyle or below, and especially if Thomas becomes chalk, then really nobody's going to have Kelsey. So the only reason to do it would be game theory and to get different automatically by having builds that go like that. No, I don't love it though. And then my play, I mentioned Carr at the top, but I didn't go into him. But I still do like Waller if you're going to pay up. I wouldn't go higher than that. But again, that's sort of in that mini range where someone's either going to go up to Kelsey or down to Doyle and below. But I think Waller, again, he just can't get the touchdowns. He reminds me of Fournette, but at the tight end position. He's literally a wide receiver in a decent offense with a good O-line that can create time for Carr where he can throw the ball. But Waller just hasn't done much. But him not doing much like last week is a 7-catch, 100-yard game with the bonus. It's a fair price. Go ahead.
But nobody's gotten touchdowns for Oakland the last 2 weeks, so it's not like.
Well, like last week, Carrier gets it. He's the other tight end. That's my point. It's like it's getting siphoned to the next guy. He just can't get it.
Did they? Because they still had 3 points with like 3 minutes left in the game. So if he got it, it was a garbage late. So I mean, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100% agree with you. But it definitely.
It's tough.
It's not like there's like 30 touchdowns going out there and he's getting left out. It's like the Raiders are struggling to score at all. So if they do have a great game and put it together, then yeah, I think he comes in play. So I agree.
Certainly on the money there, Gup. That's where I'm going with it. Like my thoughts on Tannehill were, and you just mentioned Humphreys, so I never even put 2 and 2 together because I like Humphreys this week. And then you got Davis and you got Jonnu Smith. Like if you stack up that side for cheap and had a guy like Waller on the other side, that'd be a unique stack for that game, and I think it would be more than fine. And we just saw also, too, to mention that matchup quick, Doyle just busted them up. Everyone loved that. So Waller can do the same. I think Doyle had 73 yards and a touchdown. So definitely go there. Do you want me to kick off D right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll note quickly just that the D price has dropped again, which love to see it. Last time it was $2K and up. They put it back down. It's only $1,700, but it fits back into the narrative. We'll get there, I guess. My play is going to be Minnesota. I just watched them on Monday. I know that we saw Seattle bust them up, but it's a different team, man. I'm in the 12. It was crazy with these fans. It was the loudest place I've ever been, for those fans, and that was a great game. But I think Vikings bounce back. Looking like we're going to see Blau again. I thought the interesting part on Thanksgiving with Blau was that he threw way more than I expected. Like that's why I kind of liked Scarborough late and things like that, where I wasn't as high on him when we talked on the pod, and I didn't go heavy on him, but I kind of liked him later in the week when I thought, or the next type day or whatever, going through my final process, because I'm thinking, oh man, now they're going to just want to hand the ball off. And he threw a bunch and looked good early, but then it turned sour after that and he couldn't really do anything. So I definitely like Vikings, even on a short week. They're priced up though, but my value would be back to that full punt. We talked about it before, $1,700, the Redskins, they're crushing it right now. They've actually been getting a lot of pressure at the line, average 7 a game on the season, but the average is nothing. They have 11 and 21 in their last 2. And I definitely know it's a much tougher matchup and spot, and I talked about it a little bit, but it's clearly reflected in the price. It's not like they're saying that this is an easy matchup. That's why they're $1,700, but they don't have to do a lot. And with all these wide receivers priced up and the running backs, if you still want Lamar and CMC and whatnot, you may have to go there. And I got no problem with it at just $1,700. What about yourself?
No, I think that's in play. Anytime we have the cheap D, it's hard to get away from, just because your floor and your ceiling on D is totally different. I mean, you have the anomaly one-off, Patriots get 32 type stuff. And if that happens, it's just, if you don't have them, you're dead anyways, whether you had a medium D or not. So
right.
In the odds that it doesn't, if a $4,000 D gets a 4X week, that's 16 points. Well, if they get a 4X week at 1,700, they only need like 7.6 or something like that. So it or 8.3, I guess is the number, 8.1. So, it's not out of the realm for them to get that, even if they get beat because of, one touchdown and it's over. But special team touchdown, pick six, fumbles, sacks, all that kind of stuff, late garbage time stuff.
Well, to your point, not to cut you off, we said we're going to get into strategy stuff in the fall here real quick. What you just said is dead on. They need like 8 points. That's one scoop and score. That's one pick six. Anything can happen. Pure luck, and then it really doesn't matter. They've got those 8 points built in, even if they get blown out of the building. That's done. They scored it. It's over.
Yeah. And so my play, though, I do like the Packers, just because, Haskins can turn it over at any given time. They're 4,000 as well. So it was a coin flip for me between them and the Vikings. I like both of them. I was surprised to see the Ravens price down so much to 2,900. So they're kind of right there on the bubble. Value, I did have the Cardinals as a potential value only because they're at home, 2,400. So like not dirt cheap Redskins. So if you didn't want to just go down there for whatever reason, they, for me, felt like the best home defense that's cheap, like 2,600 or less. So that was kind of how I was on the Cardinals. I definitely don't mind going to the Redskins either. And then Packers, I agree with you on I had Packers, you had Vikings. So I can go either way there. So pretty similar there.
Yeah.
Stacks of the week, obviously this time of the year it gets pretty, common. This comes more into play as we get into, reading our articles and everything throughout the week. By the time you get to Friday, Saturday, my final thoughts to talk about it. Tambo obviously has a full article around stacks. And then, late Saturday night into Sunday, that's when it really starts to, as we see a clearer picture. But right out of the gate, I like the Vikings. However it shoots out, comes out. I like them, and I like to be able to run it back with a couple pieces from the Lions, whether it be Bo or Galladay or Jones or a combination of the three. I don't mind anything with that, and I could put Cousins with Diggs, Cousins with Thielen, Cousins with Cook. Madison's going to be cheap. If he winds up being the go, he may be chalky by the time Sunday if Cook's like out, which I highly doubt at this point from everything you read. So some potential there with the Vikings. And then kind of my cheap stack that I think you could start with on some levels is the Steelers, where I go with, Duck or, like I mentioned, I like Deontay Johnson as long as Juju's out. I don't mind James Washington either. But and even Duck and Vance, because some people may go off Vance because of the price increase. And so it gives you leverage there. But that's kind of where I'm at this week on stacks. What about you?
Two off the board, I think, too, still to this point. We talked about Darnold enough, but he's got other guys that can go with him. We talked about Crowder. You can use, Demaryius Thomas even is super cheap if you want to get off the board there and use someone like that. And Robbie Anderson, anytime Miami could definitely give up the big play if they decide to actually use them. So I think that stack with Darnold and those guys, like I said, you could run it back with Gesicki if you wanted. And then the other one who I talked about a few times, and you brought in the Humphreys to it, is the Tannehill, right? You run that Tannehill stack. There's plenty of ways to do it with Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith or like you mentioned, Adam Humphries. I actually like that one quite a bit. Put a Henry in there and hope to get lucky that he throws one of those checkdowns to him and just lets him bust it 90 to the house like he can. So yeah, you can do whatever you want with that stack, but I don't mind it at all. And I think those two are off the board. And then I'll have a couple more in the stacks article when we put it out this week.
Betting contest, obviously hot and heavy in our neck of the woods, or anybody's at this point in time if you're still in it. I am still currently first in the Super7 by surprisingly, what am I, 1.5 now? My worst week in a while, which I still got, I believe, 4 points this week because I did hit my lock of the Steelers. But I went 4 or 5. I don't remember. I had to look at that. I think I went 3 and 5 actually, or something like that. 4 and 4, 3 and 5, and I hit the lock. So kept above. But it's so tight. I mean, there's so many people right there that it's going to be a close finish. We got 20 games or 28 games in this one, like 28 games. So a lot can happen these last 4 weeks. Starts getting very difficult to handicap the NFL at this time of the year. Traditionally, my better time of the year, but I couldn't be colder in betting right now. As well documented, I don't hide from it. I talk about it in Slack. I get blown up nightly from people that have pleasure words to say to me, facetious, not really, but whatever. It is what it is. You go through streaks, but I still like my leverage and where I think, not only historically, but the amount of research I do, college football, NFL, but NFL for sure, that sometimes, last Thursday I just got away. I really thought the Cowboys were going to come back in that second half, and if not win, be competitive, score, and bring it back home. I threw a bet out there. I really don't second half bet a ton, very rarely, and it lost both of them. It just started a really bad week altogether. Had some good calls, but not enough. It was very early, and I, especially later in the year, I'm waiting for full injury reports, full weather. I want all the information I can get into before I lock in the bets on the NFL. If there's something I really like, I'll lock in early. But because we're at that time of the year, we got a lot of guys get banged up, injury. I try to wait a little bit longer. Right now, I like the Colts +3. They're on the road at the Buccaneers. And that game went from they're about to kick a field goal to go up 3 as a home dog against the Titans to a blocked field goal, score, and then like 3 minutes later, or 3 plays later, the Titans are throwing another 50-yard pass, and all of a sudden they cover by 14. Crazy beat. I think that number's bad, so I like the Colts +3. You were there in Seattle. You saw the excitement. Big-time game for them. But I like the Rams. I think people underestimate the Rams here. I think and JB can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the Super Contest has them or Super 7 ours as well as a pick 'em at home. I'll take the Rams at home as an even play all day long. So Colts and Rams are the 2 I like as of tonight. Tune in later on the week as we get a little more information in. What about you?
I like a couple other ones. I like this is 2 bigger spreads for me this week. So I was feeling good. I'm reeling off that Thanksgiving day when I had the Buffalo, side and then the Atlanta New Orleans under. I was feeling pretty good, like I'm doing something, but it's not very often I get these wins. So I gotta take them when I get them. But I'm gonna go with a couple here. The big one, mini -13.5, short week and all. I mentioned when I talked about defense, but I think they thrash them. I think most don't like to touch a big number or a big spread like this. And I just don't think Detroit is very good. So with Minnesota back at home off of a tough Monday Night Football loss, I think they bounce back with or without whoever they got. I think they can do it with. I think Madison's capable. I definitely like your call on Thielen. If he comes back, whatever helps them, they're going to be fine. I think they end up taking them down. I know it's a big spread, but I feel more comfortable with that one than with someone like Green Bay, where I said I think Washington D could show up a little bit. So we'll see. And then my second one is another decent sized spread, but I don't know. You're fading them now, so I might have to rethink this one. But a Cleveland 8.5, weird number. Normally you see like a 6.5 or something to try and entice or induce bets. 8.5 sat right in the middle number between 7 and 10, and I think the Bengals won the one game that they could, and I think they go right back to getting embarrassed. It was against the Jets or whatever. It was an odd spot, but I think the dog pound is a tough place to play. It's a division game. They definitely see them before. I just think that they could punish them here and get back on track, especially if Baker's healthy. So one to monitor and go with, but as of right now, that's the spread that I like as my second one. I definitely like Minnesota more as the basically 2-touchdown favorite.
Yeah, I don't mind Minnesota. Definitely have to analyze a Browns game as we get closer. It's one that, because it's locked in the contest side, that you could go one way or the other pretty strong depending on the news you have. Because my fear with the Browns are if they get down early, like 10-0, that sideline could have. I mean, those guys, there's some prima donnas over there, and they get they just check out type of deal. So worrisome there for them to cover that big of a spread, but definitely doable. I think every survivor pool in the world is probably busted by now after last Sunday's.
Must be. Come on.
I don't know of any. I know we still had 2 guys left, I think, in one of ours, but they chopped, and so the other one, all 9 guys left had the Panthers, and so they all lost and chopped it. If you are around out there, a team that I kind of looked at earlier that probably hadn't been used a ton would be the Vikings against the Lions. I just don't see them losing at all. You just mentioned them.
That's what I have. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, Vikings would be it. Tambo, any final thoughts before we wrap it up and head out of here? I know we went a little long tonight, but wanted to get caught up after a long week. Kind of in and out for both of us, but anything you got final?
Just dog of the week, man. I just want to get it out there because I'm pumped about it. So I think the Panthers, I think everyone's going to sleep on them. CMC be down on them. I talked about it, but you've even mentioned before in the past how you think, Atlanta's a little bit out of it, and they've shown that. And I think that it could happen again, even though they won 29-3 last time. That's why I think it's a little fishy. -2.5 at home for Atlanta. Like, how don't they win? I think the Panthers take the game outright money line. So that's the one I'm going to ride this week. Try and keep the streak rolling.
Yeah, and I'm on Colts. I like them +3
like
right
that.
now. I think they could win that game. They need to win it. I will update you. I didn't get a chance to talk to Tambo and JB. I am taking Mrs. Gup to a concert Saturday night. Luke Combs is live here in San Antonio.
Nice.
One of my favorite, if not my favorite artists currently in music. Not to mention we have loads of college football that day. So I will plan to try to do the audible like we did a couple weeks ago, 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. If it works for JB and Tambo, if it doesn't, I'll let you guys know. Obviously I can't do it that night. I'll be out, but if it works for those guys, we'll probably do it. I'll try to schedule with them right after the OU game ends, kind of before the SEC and all that gets going, when everybody's still kind of, settling in for that game. We'll look at the schedule and figure that out and let you guys know. We will have something out for you no matter what. As always, you can leave us questions in the live chat questions on the Slack channel. You guys are getting better and better at doing that, so that really helps because we can jump in there and answer stuff throughout the week as we have time throughout our days. And there's some good questions to get going, and if it gets real big, we take it back over to the main feed so that everybody can jump in. Now's a great time to join gupscorner.com. As I mentioned, we just finished up our big Black Friday / Cyber Monday sale. Hopefully you took advantage of it. We had a lot of people take advantage of it, so it was a great success. We will I know we will not have another sale until potentially we launch our golf tools, which will be in about 3 weeks. Very excited for that. It's going to be awesome. I will entice you to become a member if you're not, because if you are a member, even though you may have missed out on the Black Friday, joining as a member, the discount code you will get as a current member will offset anything you missed out on Black Friday to get the golf tools when they go live. And I assure you, once they are live for 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to wish they had them. So we are looking forward to that. The development behind the scenes is going great. It is what I am spending all of my free time on. I know Josh ADHD, who is helping me build them. He is actually building them, obviously. He's the programmer, but working together with him, that is our main focus over these. We have 2 main focuses over the next 4 weeks. One, well, I'll say 3. One, make sure our kids still know who we are and what we look like. 2, the educational content podcast, the evergreen stuff, really ramping that up between Tambo and I, and may get some guests on as well. Not only golf, but just in general. A lot of things that I've kind of take notes on and put together. From you guys help us feed that, and that helps feed those pods. And so we'll go and deep dive into some stuff there, and then 3, the golf tools is obviously, we're buttoning it up and working on it for many, many, many months, over a year, as far as, almost 2 years now, as far as the beginning ground lay work of it all. So I think you guys will be excited. NBA is hot right now. MLB will be coming. NASCAR is going to be as great as ever. Obviously, PGA, little hype this week. I had a couple of guys DM me, whatever, saying they thought it was kind of crappy that they pay us and we weren't covering the hero. Like, I'm like, and I apologize, but I was like, dude, like, and it was a newer guy, and I was, both of them, they both have joined like 4 weeks ago. So I felt bad in a sense, but I was like, trust me, you will get all and everything of the golf you can think of, from the Tournament of Champions till whenever. Like, this is our first break, literally. I mean, we cover 46 out of 52 weeks of the year per se. So it's not, especially when you get into football season, you're dual rolling. I mean, like, there is a time we gotta take a break, and this was one of the few times we can. So apologize, we couldn't cover the 18-man field of 4 days, no cut event. Everybody, it just, not only did we not want to cover it, but there's really not how much can you talk about 18 guys and kind of go into deep dive. But I won't go into it. I apologize to them. I hope they understand. Long term, it's gonna be a great week. I hope that Saturday night you guys get a tweet from me stating that I had won the College Football World Championship. I'm not banking on it. Obviously, it's a tough field, a lot of sharp guys in there, but it'll be fun. There is a huge slate this week. Friday night, there's a great showdown slate, which is the best one of the year so far. Bobby's got that covered. I've talked to him a few times on it, and then I briefly got to read his rough draft of the main one. It is his most in-depth main slate coverage of the year. It's 8 games in and out. I would fathom to say that if you join this week just to play college football, you would probably make your money back, which is kind of bold to say, but in a sense, I think what you would see just in that niche sport, you would go, man, this is the place to be. If this is what they do for this, I can't imagine PGA, NFL, and all that. He covers it well, and we will have it covered, and we'll have the bowl covered as well as anybody as far as betting and DFS side. So get in now. As always, go check out our gear, gupscorner.com/store. We got the HV3 shirts. All proceeds go to the HV3 Foundation charity. Pick those up for the holidays, Christmas gifts, stocking stuffers, as well as our merch combo. I see Tambo's got his hat on. I got the shirt on tonight. Had family in town. They ordered merch combo packs after they saw them. and one of them, it was their perception was I thought it was like a cheesy shirt, and he loved it. He had the same. I had an extra, so I let him try it on, and he loved it. Loved the hat. So go check those out for us. It helps us out. Last time, gupscorner.com/challenge. Go check out the Honda Classic. 6 ways to get in, new or current member. You will not regret entering that. It'll be one hell of a time with the entire team as well as other DFS industry guys. It's going to be a great week. Looking forward to it. We will see you sometime Saturday, always in the Slack. You guys have a great week. Go Cowboys tomorrow night. Go Sooners Saturday. We will see you guys Saturday. Good night.